You have a successful life. You've done all of the things that you wanted to do when you were a young kid. However, you still haven't found your purpose. But when tragedy strikes due to the suicide of your 15-year-old granddaughter, your purpose through tragedy is found, and you become an incredible advocate for her life and for saving the lives of others. Join me as I talk with cowboy, pilot, voiceover artist, and my extraordinary person, Collin Hughes, on this episode of True Crime, Authors and Extraordinary People.
Welcome to True Crime, Authors and Extraordinary People, the podcast where we bring two passions together. The show that gives new meaning to the old adage, truth is stranger than fiction, and reminding you that there is an extraordinary person in all of us. Here is your host, David McClam.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of True Crime, Authors and Extraordinary People. Of course, I'm your man, David McClam. Hey, if you guys haven't already, make sure you follow us on all of our social media. One link to a link tree will get you every link you need to have pertaining to the show. Well, once again, it is time to speak to someone that I have deemed an extraordinary person. And let me tell you about who our guest is. He had three dreams as a child. He wanted to be a cowboy, a pilot, and an actor. He rode bulls for several years and competed against some of the greatest legends in the sport of professional rodeo. He is now a retired airline pilot and a voice actor. On June 10, 2022, his life changed forever when his 15-year-old granddaughter ended her own life. On the morning of her death, he received a phone call from her stepfather informing him of what happened, and it was in the depth of all the pain and agony that he instantly felt that he now knew what topic he had to talk about. Welcome, cowboy, pilot, voice actor, and suicide prevention advocate and extraordinary person, Collin Hughes. Hey, Collin, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here, my friend. It is a pleasure and honor. You have lived quite the life. It looks like you got to do all of the things that you dreamed of. So how was it being able to do all of those and be good at them?
It was amazing. I remember growing up, my parents were dead set against me riding bulls. My father, he just went on and on about, oh, you're going to get hurt, and he wasn't a very nice person anyway. And he said, I know these old cowboys, now they're just all broken up and you're going to regret it. I feel aches and pains from my rodeo days, but I have one regret about my days of riding bulls, is that I didn't put more into it and go harder and qualify for the National Finals Rodeo, which is the top 15 money winners in the world. But I got to compete against and became friends with some of the biggest names in the sport professional rodeo from back in that day. And, the era that I was riding bulls from the late 70s to 1990, some of the biggest names ever, Donnie Gay, 8 times world champion bull rider, Lane Frost, the man that had a movie made after him called 8 Seconds. He died in the rodeo arena at Cheyenne, Wyoming, in 1989. And there was a movie made about him, and Lane is probably one of the well-known figures in the sport of bull riding because of that movie. And, a lot of people have gone into bull riding because of him. And it was a pleasure to be able to call him a friend. Last thing he ever said to me is he called me an old fart. And then flying, it's yeah. Taxi out onto the runway, push those throttles forward. The auto throttles kick in, they go on the way forward, and that thrust of the jet engines. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Were you ever concerned, as a pilot? I mean, I know back then, but there's always some concern. Maybe I get hijacked, whatever. Do you ever have any of those kind of fears?
Oh, not really. I mean, if you think about them, you just You just take things as they come, and whatever happens, and you're trained to do the things that you're going to be faced with. And if an issue comes up, you just deal with it and work through it. And okay, we're done. I did what I did.
Let's hop into the unpleasantries when we come back to the pleasantries.
Okay.
I have found you because you are a advocate for suicide prevention because it happened to you by way of your 15-year-old granddaughter.
Right.
For one, let me say I'm sorry for your loss. It never gets any easier.
Thank you.
No matter how long it goes on. Can you tell us what were you doing that morning when you got the news?
I was sitting in my recliner watching television, and my phone rang, and it was my daughter's caller ID. So I just pick up the phone. Hey, honey, how you doing? And then it was not her on the phone, but the children's stepfather. And I instantly knew that, something's wrong, but I didn't expect anything like that. And the second he told me, I have never, ever felt such excruciating pain in my entire life. And that's even after losing my oldest daughter to cancer in 2015. That news, I don't think anybody can be prepared for. With, my daughter's death, it was, we knew for a few years before her passing that, this could happen. And that doesn't make it any easier when it happens, but you've had time to process it and go through it and, say your goodbyes. But with suicide, you can't even process that afterwards. It's, I don't know, there's no rationality to it. I can't really describe it unless you've been there. It is the worst feeling that I've ever had in my life. Absolutely the complete worst. The most pain. And I've broken bones. I've been stepped on. I've been by bulls, and I've been hooked. I've been all kinds of painful things, but nothing. Now, all of those things combined, all the other pains combined in my entire life, wasn't even 1/1,000,000th of the pain that I felt that day.
Do we know what happened, or were there any signs that she was heading in this direction?
No, not that we could, not that we knew it at that point. But there is one thing that I wondered about afterwards. Is you hear, a lot of people have heard that if somebody is contemplating ending their own life, that once they've made the decision to go through with it, there's like relief. They know that all the things that's causing them to feel this amount of pain that they want to end, they're relieved of it all of a sudden. So she lived out in Nebraska, not far from Omaha at the time. And I live in Las Vegas. And so my wife and I flew in for the funeral, and she lived in a small town, and this girl absolutely loved swimming. She's like a fish. So in the summer, she worked at the local swimming pool. She always told me how much she enjoyed it and what was going on and how excited she was to work there. So the first day that my wife and I got there, I kind of wanted to, go through the last little bit of her life. And so drove out to the swimming pool. And I was just standing outside of the fence. It was closed at the time. And a man came over. It turned out to be the pool manager. He asked me if he could help me, and I told him who I was and why I was there. And he opened the gate, and he took me inside, and it showed me that, she worked in the snack stand, concession stand, whatever you want to call it, and that she was training to be a shift supervisor. He told me that it was the day before that she died was her last day of work there, and he said that was the best day that she'd ever had. So it just made me wonder if, that decision had been made at that point. and that she was just letting everything go and just, okay, I'm going to go here. I'm going to do this because I love it. And so that just made me think about that after I got home, and I just started thinking, was that a sign that someone could have caught?
Children is very complicated these days. Back in the times that you and I was growing up, you're probably a few years older than I am. I'm 50. I was raised in the 70s and 80s. Parenting was a lot different. What kids went through in school was a lot different. The biggest things we dealt with or got complained about was we talked too much in school or we chewed gum. My youngest is at home, is 13, and I constantly fight this all the time now because there's so many influences out there.
Oh, yeah.
And kids are so cruel that they're quick to say things like, go kill yourself, or, you shouldn't be here, or get out of here. And these kids takes that to heart. I don't know how you feel. I almost was there about 3 years ago. My middle son, who was in the Navy, was contemplating suicide. He reached out to us, luckily. My wife had said, you need to call your son. And she sent me this long manifesto that he had written. The Navy had broken him, and he's currently writing a book about it, because what people don't understand about the armed forces is sometimes they don't do the right things either.
Right.
And they miss all these signs. And he had told me, he goes, I planned on going out at sea, and I was going to just jump off and split my head on the end of the hull. And here's the manifesto. And that's when I said, what's going on, son? What's he goes, I thought I would call you and say goodbye beforehand, but I ended up talking him out of it. And I wish that would have happened on your end. I don't know what she was going through, but knowing what I go through now, having a 13-year-old going to high school or junior high school, almost high school now, the things I'm battling with the school district about, it's enough sometimes just to make you say, I'm done.
Oh, yeah.
And no matter how much love you get from, grandfather or whoever, then they begin to feel like a burden because these people has programmed in their mind that they're broken and nobody wants to be around them.
I know. What you just told me about talking to your son brings up something that I took a course online. They call QPR, Question, Persuade, Refer, the QPR Institute. And it's a $30 course that a person can take that teaches you how to deal with somebody who has suicidal ideology. And the first thing you do is you question. And it teaches you how to do the questions in the proper manner. And it's not something like, oh man, you're not going to kill yourself, are you? You have to be straight to the point and say, are you considering ending your own life? Have you ever thought of wishing you wouldn't wake up in the morning? Things like that, being direct, just straightforward with it, because it is a huge, huge myth that if you mention suicide to somebody, that if they're thinking about it, that it's going to make them think more about it. No, that's a myth. If you question somebody, just like you talked with your son, that's the opposite is going to happen. If you can talk to them, you can persuade them, just like you persuaded your son. Then the next step is refer. Refer them to somebody who can help. And if you're able to, like if you're in the same town as that person or nearby, don't just have them call somebody. You get on the phone with them, set up an appointment with whoever it is, and you take them there if you can.
Mm-hmm.
So question, persuade, refer. I think it's QPRinstitute.com. The gatekeeper course is what QPR calls it. And it's $30 to take, and there is a wealth of knowledge in this course. Just a wealth of knowledge.
I'll be sure to link that.
Okay.
The other thing that goes with that too, which I'm sure that is I think when people get to that point, they feel like they're useless and not wanted. And the one thing I told my son was, do you understand what that would do to me and to your stepmom and your mom and your brothers and sisters if we woke up one morning and you weren't here anymore?
Yeah.
I'm like, did you think about that beforehand? And it kind of snapped him back. Do you think that is there a reason that you think your granddaughter maybe didn't reach out to you to tell you that she had this on her mind?
She was a very private person. When she knows somebody, she really opens up, and just a delight to be around. But she could be, pretty bashful and didn't want to burden anyone. It just, she just, here's a really good example of how she thinks about things is when she was 12, my wife and I took her to Hawaii on vacation. On this trip, this child asked for only one thing from us the entire time she was there with us. And that was if we could take her to a store so she can buy a swimming suit for herself. She even showed us she had the money to do it. Said, Mom gave her the money and it's okay. I'm like, okay. So we take her to a store and she finds a swimming suit she likes. And then her face just kind of drops and she puts it back. And I said, well, honey, is that the one you want? She says, yeah. I says, well, why don't you get it? And she says, it told me it cost too much. I says, well, do you have enough money to pay for it? She says, yeah, but, and she says she wouldn't be able to buy food or anything like that on the trip. I says, you don't have to pay for your food. Your grandma and I are taking care of all those things while you're here with us. Don't worry about that stuff. She, really? I said, yeah. So if you want it, you go over there you go up to the counter and pay for it, and you're getting it. So she pranced on over to the checkout counter and pulling out her cash, but right behind her, you know what old grandpa's doing, don't you? I'm pulling out that credit card. And she just started crying when she saw that I was paying for it. She just couldn't believe it. And then I found an ad for an attraction down on the south side of on Oahu for swimming with the dolphins. And I asked her if she wanted to do that. She says, oh, Grandpa, that would cost too much money. I said, well, no, don't worry about what it costs. Do you want to do that? She says, that's too expensive, isn't it? I just finally says, if it was free, would you want to do it? Oh, yeah. I says, okay, then we're doing it. Stop arguing with me. Then on the way home, we're going through the airport, and I have her she had one carry-on bag that was, very light and small, and I had it on my rollerboard behind me. And she says, Grandpa, I can carry that. And I says, well, I know you can. It's no big deal. It's not heavy. She says, let me carry it. I can do it. And I says, okay, honey, that's fine. So she took it. She carried it. And when I got home, my first, I live in Vegas and I was based in Houston, Texas with my job, and had my first trip back from vacation. I had to actually catch a ride down to Houston the night before because first flight was early in the morning the next day. And I get to Houston, I'm walking through the terminal, and there's a family in front of me. Had a daughter about the same age as my granddaughter, and this girl was carrying her jacket, and she throws it at her father, says, here, you carry it, I'm not going to. I thought, oh, thank goodness for my lovely grandchild. But, that's, she just didn't want to feel like she was burdening anyone. And so that's the only reason I can think of, because she would call me I've got all these saved voicemails from her. She called me, says, oh, I'm just bored and just wanted to talk. Or, Grandpa, my little brother's being a pain in the neck. Can you call him and talk to him? Because you always make him laugh. And, she'd call me just out of the blue for anything, but she must have thought that it was too big of a burden for me to talk to her about anything.
I go through that right now. My 13-year-old, he's been having some problems at school. One of the episodes I'm about to do is pretty much exposing and talking about his school district. And I asked him, I says, why don't you tell me these things when you come home? And that's exactly what he said to me. He says, because you and Mom have so many things on your plate that I just feel like that it's a burden. Then come to find out, as the floodgates open, there's a number of things at school that's going on he hadn't told me. And I just sat down with him and said, no matter what you think we have going on, you're the most important thing that we have going on.
Right.
You can't be afraid to tell me that. And when I hear your story about your granddaughter, that's what I kind of lean towards, is that whatever was happening was going on. She didn't want to feel like she was burdening you or the mom and the dad, knowing that you guys would probably talk her out of it. And that's why she didn't. And I'm glad you're speaking out about it, as painful as it is. I mean, it's just been over a year. But I just don't think that people understand how complicated our children's lives, especially teenagers, are these days. And we face more than ever now these type of things happening. How was mom and stepfather handling it?
Well, it's the pain I feel is probably not even remotely close to the pain that my daughter is going through. She's been through so much. In 2017, it was her ex-husband, the children's father, died in an automobile accident. And my grandson, whom my daughter and I had been estranged for a while. I hadn't seen my granddaughter since she was like 2.5, 3 years old, something like that. My grandson, after the divorce, was living with his father in Florida. And my granddaughter was in New Hampshire with my daughter. And their father was killed in an automobile accident. My grandson was in the accident and nearly died. He's doing great now. His front was totally gashed open, and his internal organs were exposed. Several broken bones. He was in the hospital in a coma for months, in a coma for several days. And so, my daughter had been through that, and this poor kid has been through so much. I don't know how she does it. I don't have no clue how she's pulled through. It's been horrific.
Being that you're a grandfather mourning the loss of his granddaughter, what would you say to any child out there right now that could be thinking of contemplating suicide?
Well, going back to QPR, is that there's one thing that anyone who's ever thought of suicide all have in common, is that for whatever reason, they feel that there is no hope. That there's no hope at all. Maybe, let's say a star football player in high school missed scoring the winning goal or whatever, and he just feels that was life crushing. There's nothing he can do about it. There's no hope in life, because that's what a lot of these kids are like now. They're just so, you can do it. And if they can't do it for some reason, they don't know how to cope. When I was young, I grew up in a home that, well, let's just say it wasn't easy. And I truly didn't feel like I was loved. And so what I would say to young people today, if you're in a situation where you feel there is no hope, or you feel that there's no love in your life, if you feel you can't talk to somebody at home, find someone to talk to. And I'm not talking about the friends at school who say, yeah, man, I almost did that once, or something like that. Go somewhere, go to a church, go to a synagogue, go to a mosque, go to a youth center, go somewhere where you can find somebody who is responsible, who you can talk to, who can tell you that there is hope. Love and hope still exist in this world. No matter what's been going on for these past few years, and all the hate that we've seen, all the turmoil that we've seen, and the war and the uprisings that we've seen for these last few years, love and hope exist. It's still there. You just have to find it. And you know what? It's not really all that tough to find. But put forth the effort. Put forth some stock in yourself, and know that you are worthy of love. Know that there is hope beyond what you're going through. That touchdown doesn't matter. That C on a report card instead of an A doesn't matter. It's you that matters. You are of great worth. A lot of people say to themselves, they identify themselves with what they do in life. Like, when I was younger, I'm a bull rider. when I was flying airplanes, yeah, I'm a pilot. That's right. Yeah, I fly jets. I am a pilot. But you know what? Those are things that we do. Playing football, that's something that a person does. It's not who you are. Because who we truly are is we're the son or daughter of someone, brother or sister of someone, cousin of someone, grandchild of someone. And, older people, you're a parent or a grandparent, an aunt and uncle. Those are all the things that you are, not the things that you do. Those do not define you.
What are you doing now? I know you're here with me today, but what are you doing now to continue your granddaughter's memory and to honor her legacy?
Well, I've got a website that I kind of kicking myself in the backside because I haven't been doing things much with this. More of just, kind of a memory for her and of her, and a little some information on there as to where you can go. And this is very, 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 very important. There's no longer a toll-free 800 number for suicide prevention hotline. It's very simple. If you need help, if you're in crisis mode, all you have to do is call or text 988. Everybody's known about 911 for several years, but now there's 988. 988. And if I haven't told you that number yet, it is 988 is the crisis hotline number. If you need to talk to somebody and you don't know who to talk to, call 988. Well, I've got, like I said, starting to talk about the website, and it's basically two websites that, are mirror each other. That I was thinking, trying to find a good URL for them, but I looked for stopsuicide.org, .com, .net. They were all taken. Then the little drop-down menus. Here's your different options. There was stopsuicide.life. I thought very appropriate. So I have stopsuicide.life and stopteensuicide.life. There's an essay that I wrote. It's on the front page. And a video of her with us in Hawaii in our hotel room after we had just gotten back from the room from a luau and the fun that we had. And then second page, there's a video of me that right after I got off the phone of hearing the news, I came into my sound booth and turned on my webcam. And I just thought that if people could see someone who had just gotten the news and all the pain that they feel, that raw pain could hopefully touch somebody and prevent them from doing something to hurt their family. My wife has, just heard a little piece of it. And she can't bear to listen to it. She says, because it's too raw. It's too painful, she says. And so I'm just trying to put together a public speaking presentation that I can get out and do some public speaking on, because when I stopped riding bulls, I started to announce rodeos. And one thing I discovered is I love being behind the microphone. Most people, it's like public speaking, it's, no, I'd rather eat raw snails with nails in them. But me, you put a microphone in front of me and a coliseum full of people, we're going to have us some fun. But when I found that love of public presentation, I thought, you know what, there's got to be something more that I can do with this gift that I've been blessed with. Throughout a big portion of my life, I always thought, what is it can I do that can do something that's meaningful? And I truly feel that I've been preserved throughout this life to do something like that, because when I was a small child, I was on a picnic with my family at Lake Manawa, Iowa. And I was out in the water and I got caught in this whirlpool, kept going around and around. I couldn't kick myself out. I couldn't get out of the water, and I was so close to drowning that, I kind of understood what death was. And I thought, that was going to happen to me. And just at the last second, somebody reached in and grabbed me by the arm and pulled me out of the water. We talked for just a few seconds, and I can't remember what was said. And he goes off to wherever he was, and I go back to my family, and I told my mother about it. He says, "There's nothing like that in Lake Manawa." I'm like, okay. So I go over to the picnic area next to us where I saw this man walk into, and I didn't see him. I described him to people, and nobody knew who he was. And as a young man, I was starting to cross the road, a country highway, to go to a convenience store. And just as I was stepping out on the highway, somebody yelled at me, "Get back!" And a car, missed me by just 6 inches or so. I could feel the wind off the car going by me at 60, 70 miles an hour. And there's been a couple other things, like that I truly believe that if there would not have been some intervention that day, I would have died. And so I felt that I've been saved for a reason. And just in the first few seconds of that phone call on June 10th of last year, amid all that pain, I was wailing and screaming and crying. And my wife is a social worker, and she was working from home that day, and she was on a video call with a client. She came running out, and she said at first she thought I was in my sound booth, doing a character voice with really loud stuff. and so she came running out. But in the first few seconds of that call, it just came to me, says, "This is what you're supposed to do."
Well, sometimes from the greatest pain comes some of the biggest triumphs. This is why I do what I do. I did YouTube for 13 plus years. Like you, I love being behind the microphone. I love helping people. And when that was over, I was like, what is it that I can do with this gift that I was given? Everybody was telling me, you have this great voice, you should be on the radio. I tried that for years. And then when I started podcasting 5 years ago with my daughter and then opened this show, is when I opened this show and I added the leg of extraordinary people that I knew this is what I needed to do. Mm-hmm. True crime for me, I always say this because it's cases that we don't know and cases that we should know and things that we should never forget.
Right.
I'm a big advocate for wrongdoing, especially in my own African-American community, but there's not a lot of people willing to take that up and to come out here without being afraid to being canceled and say, this is what's happening in the world and this is what we need to change.
Right.
And when I have people like yourself, which is why I built that, I'm a survivor of domestic abuse from an ex-wife and from my father. And I said, how many other people out there have stories that can potentially save someone's life just because they tuned in that day?
Right.
You are one of the biggest reasons why that is. Nobody can see you yet until I upload the video, but I see the pain, I can see the anguish, but I can also see the light in your eyes at the end of that now you feel like you are doing something by being here today, by doing voiceovers, by spreading this word that you are potentially, and believe me, you are saving somebody's life. Somebody's going to hear this today that was thinking about committing suicide. And because they heard Collin Hughes speak and the pain that he went through, they're going to think twice about that. So I thank you for being here today.
Yeah, I told you that I thought for a long time what topic I could speak about, and I still haven't found that topic, but unfortunately, it found me.
And sometimes, unfortunately, that happens in the worst way. I lost my mom in 2020. She was the closest person to me, unexpected, and I thought about throwing a microphone in. And the one thing I remembered was my mom always loved to hear me do my podcast. And my oldest daughter, her doing what she goes, Grandma would not want you to stop. Instead of that, do what you do in her memory. And that's what I continue to do. So I encourage you to do the same thing. Whatever you do, know that your granddaughter, whatever reason, whatever things happen, she's looking down on you and she's proud of what you're doing to help somebody else that is in her position that you don't even know what that position is. But it's not important to know that. What's important to know is that you're helping somebody save their life.
I've had 3 huge tragedies in my life that through each of them, I found something good. My daughter's death in 2015. She and I didn't have the best relationship until she found out that she was diagnosed with cancer, and we started to grow closer together. And that brought my oldest granddaughter, who is now a senior in college, graduates next May, that brought her back into my life. And she is fantastic. The accident that I told you about in 2017 with my grandson, I told you I was estranged from her. I hadn't seen those children before in a while. And before this happened, a couple days before we found out about that, my wife asked me, says, well, what if she contacts you again and wants to get back together? And I says, honey, I can't go through that again. It's just too many emotions attached there. Next morning, I'm getting ready to go to work. I had just the first day of a 4-day trip. All I had was a 1-leg flight to Detroit and layover in Detroit, overnight in Detroit. And I'm saying my prayers in the morning. In the middle of the prayers, I hear this voice come unto me. It says, pray for your children. I says, my children? They don't want anything to do with me. I don't have any children. No. And it came back and says, pray for your children. And I mean, several times I finally said, okay, I'll do it. So I did. And get to work the flight into Detroit. Next morning, go back to Houston. I'm deplaning passengers. I'm walking up the jet bridge. My phone rings, and it's my daughter. And tells me where she's at in the hospital with my grandson I've never met. And she says that her mother couldn't come down to be with her. Her sisters couldn't come down to be with her. And asked me, she said she just needed someone there for support. And I just says, I'm on the next flight. And I didn't take the jump. I didn't try to do standby and get a free ride down there. I bought a seat just to be sure. And when I first saw my grandson, the first time I saw this 7-year-old child, this beautiful, beautiful boy, is lying in a hospital bed near death. But that brought my daughter, my granddaughter, and my grandson back into my life. And it's been great ever since until she died. And then her death, I now have, it's a long story, but I won't get that deep into it. But now I have another grandchild that I have strong communications with. And just so opposite of my other granddaughter. This one she holds nothing back. Nothing. It's anything. Oh, she's going to talk about it. But through all this tragedy, there are still good things in life.
So one of those good things in life for you is you are now a successful voice actor. Is there any big ads that you've done that we may have heard you do on TV?
Oh, I'm working up there. Haven't gotten any big television spots yet. I came really close to getting a Super Bowl ad here a while back. So it's my agent got me an audition for a Super Bowl commercial, and I just barely missed. and most of the things I've been doing is character work. I've just recently updated my commercial demo. I finally bit the bullet, and I put a ton of money into using professional demo producer. And it cost me it didn't cost me. It was a sizable investment. And it came out great. And that's on my homepage, collintalks.com, COLLINTALKS.com.
You can certainly appreciate that. I can, because I spend a ton of money too, just in the production of the podcast. And I'm in the middle of writing a book right now. And one of the things I touch on is I'm like, dude, when we're doing podcasts and they can't see you, your voice, how it sounds is everything. Got a bunch of stuff going in the background, you might as well forget it.
Oh yeah, this commercial demo, I would just, in the past I'd worked with some other voice actors who did some coaching on the side to help me put together some demos. And they weren't professional demo producers, but I was doing a search online for professional demo producers, and I looked and I came across this one that the name of it is so much fits what this guy does. His name is Chuck Duran. It's Demos That Rock. And he made my demo rock. And in about 2 weeks, I've got a recording session set up with him to record my video game demo and my animation demo.
Oh, wow.
And I'm taking my commercial demo and having video put to it. So it's, we're getting things out there.
So how did you get into the world of voice acting?
Well, like I said, I've always wanted to be an actor. I remember as a child, like in the 2nd or 3rd grade, something like that, there was a new thing out at this time. An amazing creation. You'll never believe what this is. It was a thing called a video camera, a home video camera that anybody can make movies at home or wherever they want to go. And I was in this really small school. We had, I think it was like 12 people in my class, up to the 5th grade. Then we were at 6th grade, we were absorbed into a larger school. But one of my classmates was having his birthday. Every time somebody had a birthday in this class, we had a party. And so his mother came out and she had a video camera with her. She told us she wanted to take some video of us. We're all standing up front. And at that age, you take a picture, you stand still and smile. And I'm up there moving my arms around and running my mouth. And they're looking at me like, what are you doing? I says, it's a video. It's a movie. Well, I didn't say video. I said, it's a movie. It's a movie camera. I'm acting. So then after announcing rodeos, I just really enjoyed. I'd done some commercials for some of the rodeos that I had announced and some other things like that, some promotional things. Right as COVID hit, I was diagnosed with renal cancer. And it's all taken care of now. I've been through surgery. Everything's good. But that got me started to where I could no longer fly. I'd lost my FAA medical certification. Because I had to go on some other medications during that time. And then my official retirement date, age 65, that's it. You're no longer legal to fly for the airlines. And that happened to me last year in April, was my 65th birthday. But during that time, after COVID started, I was at home all this time and I just bored. And I thought, you know what? Why not find out what I got to do? Get a microphone, do some voiceover stuff. I had a friend I reached out to. She says, oh, you've got to call this guy TZ Collins or BZ Collins. He's a voice actor. He's done it for years and he can teach you. So I got with BZ and did some lessons with him. And he's the one that did my first commercial demo. Then another lady who does some character voicing. I just started investing this money like crazy. $1,000 microphone, $1,400 booth that I just got. I had a smaller one, 4 foot by 4 foot, that cost me $1,200. I thought, I need more room. I want to reach out. So now I'm in a 6x6 booth. It just, investing all this money into it, practicing and working and practicing and getting coaching and lessons. And now here I am. And my next step, lights, camera, action.
Well, I can totally say I know how you feel. I've been at this and I'm just now starting to see the fruits of labor, coming from that. You'll get there. I've got people that I've met along the way doing this that's now want to partner with me, some big names, and wants to help propel me. You'll be the same. I thought you was already doing big spots because I went to your website and you had a demo reel, and I did hear the Wrangler demo that you did. And I'm like saying, man, I feel like I've heard this commercial before, because in the back of my mind, there was this Dodge Ram commercial that kind of sounded just like this one. I'm like, man, is that the guy that did the Dodge Ram?
That's the demo that Chuck did for me. This guy is amazing. Before, these, if you want to call them demos, It's like, okay, here's the scripts, let's practice them. And first appointment with Chuck is he talks to you for about 2 hours, just getting to know you. You just talk like you just met at a game or something like that. I'm Collin. Oh, hey, glad to meet you, Chuck. And we just talked about life. And then towards the end of that, he brings up, now let's find some categories. This is clothing. What do you think would be a good thing for clothing? Wrangler. And he says, what about automobiles? Ram trucks. What about Subaru? And he talked me into Subaru. So that Subaru spot's on there. And he says, I don't know how to ask you this because it might be too hard. What about a PSA for suicide prevention? I says, I'd love to do it. So you hear that on there. And then he says, food. I says, Firehouse Subs. And so that's how the conversation went. And then from all that, he has a lady who writes the scripts. So she writes the scripts and sends them back to you. He recommended a coach for me to get with that he's, has had used for a lot of people. But I had 3 coaching sessions with this gentleman preparing for the recording session. And then the recording session was less than an hour with him. I recorded all on my studio at home and send him the files, and he works his magic. And then that demo that you just heard, that you listened to on there, that's my demo that rocks, from Chuck Duran of Demos That Rock.
Well, it certainly did that. It was good. I was looking for. I'm like, this guy's out here already doing these things. He's doing his thing. But you keep working with him, you're definitely going to get there. I'm looking forward to hearing your voice. A lot of good things coming down the line.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So in closing, Collin, with everything that we've talked about today, what would you like the audience to take away from everything we talked about today?
Like I was saying earlier, don't give up. Life is beautiful. Love and hope exist in the world. Put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to take the leap. No matter what you're going through, there's something better and better than those negative things that you're feeling. Okay, here's a great way to end it. On the words of someone who everybody in the United States probably knows the man anyway. Michael Jordan says that his success came about because of failure. You can't learn how to succeed if you haven't failed and continued to push forward. Failure creates success. Don't give up.
Well, Collin, I certainly thank you for coming on the show today. This has been a very enlightening conversation, heartbreaking at times. You're doing God's work out there. Just keep doing what you're doing. Anytime that you will want to come back here on the show, you always have a open invitation, and I offer you good luck into your future endeavors down the road.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, guys, that was the incredible Collin Hughes. You can learn everything you need to know about him on my website. Also, go to collintalks.com. All of the websites that you heard listed today will be listed in the show notes, along with that 988 number. If you are thinking about suicide or know someone that is, 3 numbers, 988, text or call can get you some help. All right, guys, I hope you're being safe out there. I know you have many options for true crime and interview podcasts. I'm grateful that you have chosen me. Hope you're being good to yourself and to each other. And always remember, always stay humbled. An act of kindness can make someone's day. A little love and compassion can go a long way. And remember that there is an extraordinary person in all of us. I'll catch you guys on the next one.
Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. Join us on social media. One link to the link tree has it all. Feel free to drop us a line at truecrimeandauthors@gmail.com. Cover art and logo designed by Arslan. Sound mixing and editing by David McClam. Intro script by Sophie Wild and David McClam. Theme music, Legendary, by New Alchemist. Introduction and ending credits by Jackie Voice. See you next time on True Crime, Authors, and Extraordinary People.